Welcome, Homo. Thanks for being here. It is Thursday, 2 days after the last show on Tuesdays. Again, I've said before, we're pretty good, consistent on the Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to stay that as long as we can. So we are at Trumpstein War, day 41. And clearly, I think it's general to say that because it's out of his own lips, out of his own mouth. We don't know what it is, where it goes, what we're doing, how long it's going to be out, when it's over. It's quite literally the most, chaotic is probably a word that cannot possibly convey all of the negatives that are associated with where we're at with regard to a war started by us, the United States, in the form of an idiot president. So we're at day 41. We know that. I think we're done with the pretense, even for stupid, just blatantly stupid. And I'm going to be kind here because I could say worse, but even stupid MAGA cult members aren't even bothering to try to fight that the way they were the first week or two. Oh, and it's excursion, it's an expedition, it's a journey, it's everything but what it actually is, which is a war. We started a war. And even the most diehard cult members are having trouble calling this anything but a war. It is a war. It's that simple. So if they're still trying, that speaks to their character, not yours. So we're at 41, well over a month, obviously. I don't think anybody believes that this thing as a whole is going to be done anytime soon. It can't possibly be. One, because he tacoed Monster on the Tuesday, a couple days ago. That's why I started by saying this is Thursday, 2 days after the show. On the Tuesday, because Tuesday was Taco Tuesday, the ultimate taco. The biggest taco I've ever seen any president pull. That's not even a debate. That's just a fact. Every president up until this point has known if you make a threat, you better abide by it and live up to it. And being careful and measured with your threats comes part and parcel with the job, with being a president of the United States. You don't hyperbolize, you don't exaggerate, you don't blow it up and make stupid statements that are well beyond your capability. In this case, with Donald Trump, it was he's going to wipe out an entire civilization. I'll say this. It's 99% impossible to wipe out the entire Iranian civilization. And I'm being, I'm leaving that 0.1%, right? But it's pretty much impossible. And as I stated on the prior show a couple of days ago, the Iranian people, that region, again, I don't want to, for those of you that are historic or historical minded, you understand why I have a little bit of a hesitation and a pause with using the word Iranian, Iran, because that's not the name of that region going back thousands of years. The people there are, in essence, kind of the same people, even though they've been mixed and conquered and then reconquered, and others did this and that, and then they booted them out. But it's a mixed group of Semitic peoples, and they've been there forever, and they're not just Iranian. Iranian or Iran is a relatively newer word to describe them in the vast, play of history over 5,000 plus recorded years in that particular region of the world, the Middle East, the Fertile Crescent, the land between two rivers, Mesopotamia. So it's pretty much impossible to wipe out an entire civilization. That one in particular, by the way, really, really difficult. So you make a stupid statement like that, and there's no debating here. That is just a stupid statement that he made. And he says a lot of stupid things. And you can fall back if you're a MAGA cult member and say, well, that's his strategy, it's his tactic. It's how he plays, right? The problem is that I said this a few nights ago on the prior show, these people don't play like that. They are quite willing to die for their beliefs and their people, their faith, their country, because they've done it before. And yet they still exist, i.e., the reason why I said it's almost impossible to wipe those particular people out, that particular people. It's stupid for what he said. But it did cause issue and problem with the rest of the world because a president of the United States threatening genocide has never been seen before, never been done before. It's stupid. And no president has ever been that stupid until now, until this one. That is objective fact. Even FDR at the beginning in the height of World War II did not make that stupid claim. I'm going to wipe out the entire German or Japanese civilization. Never made that statement, never made that claim. No president, again, has ever been that stupid. But here we are. So we're at 41 and tacoed in a way that no president has ever tacoed in the history of the United States, nearly 250 years of a history. Obviously, not as many that years when it comes to presidency, because we didn't get our first president until 1789 and 90 with George Washington, not 1776. Most of you know we didn't have a president at the beginning, right after the Revolution, 1776 and on. We had the Articles of Confederation. We really didn't have a president, et cetera. All right, Constitution. Anyway, no president has ever been that stupid. No president has ever said anything like that. But here we are, tacoed on Tuesday. And I'm going to say it. I'm done saying there's a Taco Tuesday. He does it all the time. He threatens and he backs off. He threatens and he backs off. I'm tired of it. Listen, I grew up on the street. If someone said they're going to whoop your ass, they whoop your ass. Because if they don't, then you don't believe them anymore. Okay, and for the record, I got my ass whooped a lot. Gave some and I took some. But I don't remember anyone ever telling me I'm going to whoop your ass. Oh, but I don't mean it. No, they did it. Because if they didn't do it, then I wouldn't believe them. And if you're Mexican in America, you should know what I'm talking about, even if you didn't grow up exactly like me. A lot of you have. And you understand that if you make a statement, make a threat, then you better abide by it or follow through on it, or the parties that you threaten will no longer believe you and no longer care for your threat. And you don't have to have grown up on the street and gotten your ass whooped a little bit to know that. That's common sense. I'm going to make it really, really simple. And one of the better skill sets, attributes that I have personally is taking some of these issues that are difficult and breaking them down, making them comprehensible for regular people in a regular life. Here's one as an example. As I just said, I grew up on the street. If someone said they were going to whoop my ass, they either did or they didn't, but they didn't threaten me and not try to follow through with it because I wouldn't believe them. I'd laugh and do what I want anyway. Here's another example for regular people that aren't that with street. A son or daughter puts their hand in a cookie jar and you allow it. And if you allow that hand in the cookie jar and don't do anything about it, then they keep putting their hand in the cookie jar. Do you understand? When a child first feels flame, heat, fire, if they don't know better, they don't know, or they've never experienced it, they may try to touch it, but immediately recoil and find out that hurts and it burns them. I.e., they'll never do that again, or at least not the same way. Get it? Don't touch that flame. It'll burn you. Same thing here. If you do not educate a child, teach a child, penalize a child, punish a child, and punish doesn't have to be bad. It can be instructive. It could be a learning experience. If you don't teach that child through education, through a learn, that doing that is not going to be good for you, or that I'm going to do something to you, I'm going to punish you, you're no longer, you keep sneaking in and getting the cookies, and I'm not going to give you this other thing. And if you don't follow through with that threat, they'll continue to do it, and you lose any strength or credibility in the threats that you're making, in the correction. And that's as simple as parenting. That's as simple as parenting. You don't let the child get what they want if it's bad for them. Because if you allow it and you don't have the spine as a parent to stop them or correct them or say no to a child from doing something that objectively will be worse for them as they grow up and older and will harm them later, but you didn't have the spine as a parent to correct them early, then those problems are on you. That's how you parent. You don't make a threat unless you're willing to follow through on that threat, because a child will figure it out. And we are quite literally there. Iran has figured out that the president of the United States may be the biggest candy ass on the planet, maybe the weakest son of a bitch in existence. He has purview and access to the world's greatest military machine, the greatest ever that I was a part of, the United States Army. There is no military that can compare with ours. And like a kid with the toy, he's wielding it as if it is a toy. But again, if you make a threat and you don't follow through with it, don't be surprised when those people no longer care about your threats and don't fear your threats. And don't give a shit about you in general. Now, on the surface, if it were just Donald Trump, and you know where I'm going with this, if you're lucid, clear thinking, honest with yourself, and you're smart, and you're Super Mex Nation, and you're watching my show, and we're the Thinking Mexican Show, you know where I'm going. The problem here is that Donald Trump is making threats, writing checks that we have to cash, that the American people have to cash, literally on the financial side too, by the way, literally with money, for sure that, but also cashing checks with American lives. Because to date, I think we're at 13 dead Americans and hundreds wounded, 300, in excess of 300 American wounded, some permanently damaged, disfigured, or disabled. So he's writing checks that we have to cash financially and physically with the sons and daughters of America. So he tacoed on, he tacoed on the Tuesday because he said we were getting a ceasefire. Never mind the ass hattery of that, by the way. He started the war and wants praise and attention for negotiating a ceasefire. I'll say it. How stupid is that? The stupidity is incalculable. I don't even know. It might be a millennium problem, and we're past the old millennium. For those of you that know, you know. But it is incalculably stupid to start a war and then want praise and attention when you get a ceasefire after you started the war. And we're going to run this a little bit here, but the arsonist who starts a fire and brings a bucket to the fire. Shout out to Spain, by the way. I'll get to that in a second. If I don't forget, my producer will remind me to make sure I comment on that for a second. I got to write that down because it's still funny to me. But he started the war, negotiated a ceasefire, wants praise and attention and love from everybody because he did that. And what the Iranian people now know, figured out, deduced, as that they're playing a game with someone who really doesn't know how to play it at this level with life and death. Because if I'm Iranian, if I'm in Iran right now, and the president of the United States just threatened to wipe out my entire civilization, me included, I'm Iranian. If I'm Iranian and I'm there, he didn't do it. So, okay, he made the threat. He didn't do it. Let's negotiate. Fine. Let's do it. We know what he won't do. He won't wipe us out because he already threatened that. And for the record, he has threatened multiple Taco Tuesdays, by the way, for this entire time of 41 days. He's been doing this almost like on a weekly basis. I've been kind of coming. I'm not saying every single Tuesday, but I think for most part, every Tuesday it's been, oh, I'm going to give him a few days. I'm going to give him 5 days. I'm going to give him 3 days. And he keeps backing off and he keeps candying out and he keeps moving the goalposts and seeding the ground. And they have figured us out. They have figured him out. that he doesn't have the balls to do it. And for the record, let's be clear here. I say he doesn't have the balls to do it. I don't think he does. But I also don't want him to, because if he did, he'd wipe out an entire civilization. See the conundrum? That's the problem with presidents that don't know what the hell they're talking about and have a loud mouth, that have never served, that don't know life and death, that have never had a loved one who served or gave their life for their country. He does not know what that is. He does not understand what that is. And the Iranians have figured that out. So, point to make. They negotiated a ceasefire that's supposed to be for 2 weeks. And I was watching, and I don't watch podcasts and other shows because I want my content, my thought to be original. I read a lot regarding foreign policy, our national policy. I've said before, our force posture, our military. Still read Stars and Stripes. That is the military's newspaper. Military Times as well. I still read Military Times, Stars and Stripes. And then I read a lot of foreign and watch foreign material. English from the UK, obviously. I watch Italian. I watch Spanish. I watch French and German. Those 4 or 5 main European countries. And for the record, ladies and gentlemen, it is not that difficult. I'm not fluent in all of those languages. I have a smattering in some of them. I am Latin, Latino. I speak some Spanish, so I've got a little bit of the others because they're Latin languages, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, French, etc. But Germany in particular, if I haven't said this before, I was stationed in Germany. So even though I'm not fluent in Germany, I can pick up quite a bit. But having said all of that, it isn't hard anymore, ladies and gentlemen, to get material in other content ways from other countries, because you can watch YouTube, this platform here that we're on now, and you can turn on subtitles in English for almost anything. I think most of you know that. Some of you know that. But I do that. I watch other shows and programs, and then I subtitle them in English so that I can understand. And again, if you've got a little bit of that language anyway, it's easier for you. The subtitles are not always perfect, by the way. There's lost in translation, there. Anyway, so having done all that, having watched all the others, having seen everything over the last, X amount of weeks since we've started this mess, it is a bad case for us, because as I was saying, the problem is that he, because of the office, as a result of the office, speaks for the American people. He is the elected leader of our people, so therefore he speaks by extension for us. Now, you can make the argument he doesn't speak for all of us. Clearly, he does not. Like, de facto, he really doesn't speak for me and a lot of other people. He doesn't speak for the majority of America, by the way, when it comes to this war. He doesn't speak for the majority of America when it comes to NATO and a whole bunch of other issues. The majority of America is not with him, but he is the elected leader. So he gets to speak. And the problem with that is that he is being heard by other countries, other people, and by extension, because he is the president of these United States, then we're getting tagged with this stuff too. Then we own responsibility for it. Now, I will say this, that most of the material I've seen, most of the shows that I've watched, most of the stuff that I've read, we are catching a little bit of a benefit from some of these other countries, in the sense that they openly state they know that a lot of Americans did not vote for this president, and a lot of Americans do not agree with what he's doing. They know that. So my point in bringing that up is that they're starting that conversation before they talk about President Trump. They say openly, I want to make sure I'm clear. I don't think that all of Americans are like Donald Trump. I don't think all of Americans want to start a war in the Middle East. I don't think all Americans want Israel to bomb the hell out of all Palestinians, a genocide. I don't think that all Americans are racist. I don't think all Americans think you can walk up to a woman and grab her by the pussy. I don't think all Americans can be credibly accused, charged, and convicted of sexual assault. They know we're not, is my point. They know. And I'm thankful, and you as an American should be thankful too, that not all the world believes that we are all like Donald Trump. They don't. That is fact, and that is good. Because it leaves us a kernel of belief that maybe we can right the ship somewhere down the road and correct ourselves. I have said this before. I said this in the classroom a long time ago as a classroom teacher, U.S. history. One of the greatest attributes, one of the greatest characteristics of our country, of our Constitution, of our people as a whole. We've got a lot of flaws, a lot of warts, a lot of ugly. But one of the greatest things about us, more so than any other country on the planet, is our ability to self-correct. We have that ability because of the Constitution, and we can self-correct. We can make ourselves better. We can move on from something bad that we did and make it right and make us overall better. I'll use a real simple one. Are we not better off now than after 1865? Prior to 1865? Prior to the American Civil War? Where slavery and the ownership of a human being is no longer acceptable? Are we not better? That's self-correction, ladies and gentlemen. That is self-correction. And I can give a whole bunch of others. That's a different class, different discussion. But my point is that we are fortunate that at least countries are seeing that. They know that. And they're not all blanketing us with what Donald Trump is. So he created or negotiated a ceasefire. The Iranians, by fact, know who he is, know what he will not do, clearly, not obliterate an entire civilization. Stupid comment. One of the stupidest comments by any president in the history of the United States. And for the record, I think I said this 2 days ago. If you took a list of the stupidest comments any president has ever made, and you took a top 10, Donald Trump may actually have all 10. He may have all 10. I can probably put that list together myself. But he constructed a ceasefire, negotiated a ceasefire. And there were points in that ceasefire agreement that were agreed to by all parties, Iran, us, etc., Israel, and others. And then immediately within a day or so, the ceasefire was violated in multiple parts because Israel went and started bombing or doing some stuff in Palestine again. Not in the, there was agreed to by the ceasefire. He did it anyway. And the point is that, again, like most things, it's only good if it holds to be true, if you can be seen to be credible and honest and fair and open and play straight. Or else why is somebody going to believe you? So with that ceasefire, we get to now. And Donald Trump warned Iran on Thursday amid reports that, and this is, literally today, amid reports that Tehran, Iran, is charging oil tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, which has been the principal point of contention and news to date. Because why? Because Donald Trump stressed out about the fact that oil is skyrocketing, fluctuating. It has gone up and down, but in general, it's up higher than it has been in a long time. And gas prices are spiking through the roof. And that's affecting us Americans day to day. He doesn't want that. No president wants that. So they told him that Iran was charging oil tankers, in essence, a toll to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And then let's be clear, for the record, prior to this stupid war started by Donald Trump, the Trumpstein war, because we're deflecting from the Epstein files, prior to him starting the Trumpstein war, there was no toll through the Strait of Hormuz for anybody. So again, Donald Trump is actually making the Iranian people more money. We've already had that discussion. We've talked about it. Donald Trump lifted sanctions against the Iranians, the country that we are at war with. And he has made them more money because barrels of oil are more expensive now than prior to the war. So he's making them more money. He's literally making the enemy more money. On top of the barrels of oil costing more and Iran making more money off their barrels of oil, we drove up the price of their principal commodity, oil. The negotiator, Donald Trump, the great negotiator, he's making Iranians more money. He's making the government of Iran more money than they were before the war. In addition, they are now charging tolls on tankers that are going through the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm going to, I'm not going to get in too far here, but I'm going to guess on countries or tankers or businesses that are not friendly to them or that they don't deem as, acceptable, but you're going to pay me. So that was today. So there are reports that, and this is a quote, that Iran is charging fees to tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz. And Donald Trump said, this is the funny part because it goes along with what the gist of my argument up until now in this particular show, the childish and childlike mentality of Donald Trump, the insipid stupidity of what he is intellectually, his mind, his brain. He said, they better not be. And if they are, they better stop now. So that's what he wrote on his social media platform, Truth Social. When he found out that Iranians are charging tankers to go through the Strait of Hormuz and making money after the ceasefire. And his response, and I quote, these are the exact words out of the God King, the child emperor, Donald Trump. They better not be. And if they are, they better stop now. You can't make that up. That's all kinds of third grade stupidity. You know what? Apologies to third graders. That's actually worse. They better not be. Hysterical. So Iran has now demanded the right to collect tolls from ships transiting the strait as a condition of the current pause in hostilities. So again, ceasefire, but Iran is now making money. Iran is making money where they were not making money before. And he's supposed to be a great negotiator. With negotiators like this, we're going to go broke. We may. The Financial Times reported Wednesday that Tehran plans to require ships passing through the waterway to pay the cryptocurrency equivalent of $1 per barrel of oil on board during the 2-week ceasefire. I did say cryptocurrency equivalent. That's a sidebar. I wasn't going to spend any time on it, but why crypto? They want it paid in crypto because it's not traceable normally. And they want to continue to break the dollar. The dollar is weaker than it has been in a long time in relation to other currencies. When the dollar's not being used, it weakens. When the dollar is being used, it strengthens. That's why the desire for payment in crypto instead of a traditional dollar currency or any currency. I think the other was the Chinese yen, or not yen, the Chinese currency, not American dollars. They're actively working in a variety of ways to damage us, damage the United States. If you're not using the dollar, you're using another country's currency, then you're harming us. If you're using a cryptocurrency, then you're harming the dollar because you're not using the dollar. And currency is only as good as its value and utility. If you're using it, it gains strength. If you're not using it, we lose strength, we weaken. And then lastly, again, finish that point. Why crypto? Because crypto is untraceable the same way. You do not know or how it's going, where it's coming from, etc. I know it sounds bad, but that's the nature of it. Okay, you can't. And more importantly, it's in lieu of or a substitute for the dollar, not being used. That hurts our economy. That hurts our dollar. So Trump has now demanded that Iran reopen the strait immediately. See, here we go again. Immediately, or brace for renewed military action against its infrastructure. Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say. We probably need to get somebody who does the Trump impression really well. Dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. He said in a separate Truth Social post. That is not the agreement we have. So, idiot. You negotiated a ceasefire. You negotiated a deal. And people are not abiding. Israel's not abiding by the ceasefire. Iran is not now. And Iran is making money off the Strait of Hormuz now. And the most you can come up with is threatening them with what you already did. I'll say it because I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again before we move on here. Donald Trump is literally the blueprint for how not to be a president. He will be studied in history courses and definitely in presidential history as how not to negotiate, as how not to be a president, how not to be a commander-in-chief. The levels of stupidity are, again, incalculable. I mean, we've never seen it before. And in the MAGA cult world, they think that's a good thing. There are people out there right now in America that are literally craving for some normal, back to like, hell, I'll take what we used to have, even if it was just the same old shit. Let's do that again. Because I'm tired. And I said this on the way over here to my producer. I said, I'd like to live in a world where I don't have to hear about Donald Trump's stupid shit every day. Some stupid ass comment that he made, some insult that he gave, some idiotic thing he did on Easter Sunday with kids, threatening the Pope. Could we not just go a day without this human excrement not opening his fat mouth? That would be nice. That would be nice. Because I know this country, and a large portion of it, yen for a time when we didn't have to worry about hearing about the president of the United States every damn day. We just trusted they were doing their damn job. Once in a while, they'd come on, they'd do a State of the Union, they'd do an event, We're good. And go back to your daily lives. This guy is in the grill every damn minute of every damn day. I'm sick of it. The overwhelming majority of this country is sick of it. No one's going to deny me that. Even his people, even the Trump cult members have admitted to me that they would like to him not to talk so much, not to open his mouth, not to say anything. Blatantly. They still support him, but they just like that he not talk or say anything anymore. Literally. I've been told that by MAGA members. It would be nice. So, again, another example of his brilliance in ceasefire negotiation. There are, the agreement, and I probably should have done that. Maybe I should have broken down all the points of the ceasefire that were negotiated and should have been or were supposed to be adhered to, but they haven't. That's the bottom line. Very simple, not complicated. The ceasefire that was negotiated between Trump and the Iranian government and other parties, i.e. Israel, have broken and violated this negotiation, this ceasefire already. And then in particular, this one here. And I'm gonna remind people that prior to Trump starting this war, because of the Trumpstein files, prior to him starting this war, Iran was not making money off tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. That is an entirely new revenue stream created by the President of the United States for the Iranian government. Recalculate that. Maybe we should cut, Dominic, maybe we should cut this part as a TikTok. Donald Trump has created an entirely new revenue stream for the Iranian government. Fact. They're charging oil tankers to go through the Strait of the Hormuz and making money off of Donald Trump's stupidity. Fact. That's going on right now. I mean, he's literally finding ways creatively that no one thought about to do more damage to the American people, to do more damage to our economy, to do more damage to our military, by the way. Because I'm going to say this again, and this is the part that really kind of chaps the hide. If the Iranian government is making more money off of idiot one here, off of idiot 45, 47, the president of the United States, this idiot, can we not expect them to spend that money on more drones, more military? That's a rhetorical question. You're damn right we can expect them to do that. And again, the problem with that is it's not Donald Trump's fat ass on the line. It's not his son Barron, who's 20 years old, who's more than old enough and capable of strapping up and fighting for his daddy's war. Can we not expect Americans in uniform, in our military, to be in further danger because our president is making Iran money right now as we speak? I've said before, everybody knows it that knows me and that knows my socials, that knows my shows. He is a traitor. And quite literally, one of the definitions of a traitor or treason is aiding and abetting the enemy. Donald Trump currently is aiding and abetting the enemy that we are at war with right now as we speak. He's making them money. More money for them to buy more drones, spend money on their military, and continue to own the Strait of Hormuz and make more money off it. That is current. That's right now. As we speak. As we speak. So I would say, as usual, we're going off into the weekend. And I'm going to say it, it's good to be honest. I genuinely do not know what stupid thing he'll pull this weekend by tomorrow. And always, for the record, I think I've said this too before, prior shows, always pay attention on the Friday nights. They love to do stupid shit on the Friday nights. They think because, and for the record, it's a tactic, it's a news thing, it's a marketing thing, it's a PR thing. You want to get stuff out as people go into their weekend because they're not paying attention on Friday night into Saturday. And that is true. That is a truism. That's a fact. That it is the way we are as a people. And I'm going to say this. I'm not saying this as a pejorative, like it's negative to who you are or what I'm telling you. But the average American person wants to get off on their Friday, go home, spend time with their family, their loved one, maybe do something over the weekend with them. They don't want to be thinking about this garbage. So the Trump administration has been sneaking things in on the Friday nights because attention spans and paying attention to what is going on is the furthest thing from the mind of the average American going into the weekend. So let me stop there. I've given you the metric on how that's done. It is a marketing and PR strategy, by the way. It is a news cycle strategy. And it works. And it works because, as I've said, you get off from work on your Friday, regular Joe America, 5 o'clock, you go home, have dinner with the wife and kids, plan something. Back in my time when I was that guy, I'd be getting ready for, we'd be getting ready for the weekend. Make sure all the equipment's loaded up. Make sure the car's good for tomorrow. We got to drive out. We got a wrestling tournament in the morning. Got to be there at 5 o'clock for weigh-ins. I'm not thinking about all the other stuff. I don't want to. I've got a family. I've got a son and a daughter to take care of, teach, train, and do with, right? Live with. That's what America is. That's what regular America is. The tactic and the strategy is to hit you with these negatives or these things that they want to get out, but under the radar, so they can say they got them out, but you weren't paying attention, so it draws down the attention to these things. Pay attention this weekend. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to ask my viewer, my listener, those of you that do come, The numbers, are slowly creeping. We haven't really pushed hard yet. It's more about me getting settled and comfortable in my schedule with this Tuesday, Thursday window. But for those of you that do watch, including any of you that are new, this is the show for the thinking Mexican. We cover seriously difficult and comprehensive topics. In this case, and what it has been for the most part, war, foreign policy, national security. And I do know there aren't a lot of Mexicans on YouTube in general or podcasting at a high level that cover these things like with clarity and with seriousness. And I do. I maybe flip once in a while about things, but I am deadly serious when it comes to these items and how it relates to Mexican America and America as a whole. Okay? This is the show for the thinking Mexican. This is the show for the thinking American. If you're watching me and you're not just Mexican, again, because we are for everybody. I didn't raise my hand to serve this country and say I'm only serving Mexicans. I served everybody. White, black, blue, brown, green, you name it, I did it. Rich or poor, I didn't give a shit. You were from the Ozarks or Maine, I didn't give a shit. I served for everybody. That's the way it's supposed to be. So the show for the thinking person when it comes to our national security, our foreign policy, international relations, etc. And I'm asking you to pay attention through this weekend and see what else Numbnuts comes up with over the weekend and how more he can damage our reputation globally, because that is done. There's no debate on that. I laugh now hearing over the last 20 years or so from MAGA cult members bitching and complaining about how Obama and Biden were embarrassments. And it's literally projection or deflection. That's a Trump thing. Whatever comes out of his mouth is he's projecting because that's what he does, or he's deflecting because he doesn't want to deal with it. Projection and deflection. In this case, projection, because Donald Trump historically will go down as the biggest, greatest embarrassment in the history of the United States president. I'm extremely confident about that. I've spent a lifetime creeping toward a 6th decade. I spent a lifetime studying U.S. history in our foreign policy and our relations, to the point where I served in other countries for this country. And again, spent a lifetime reading, studying, learning, knowing. And again, not just as an adult, I didn't just go get a degree. I've literally been studying this America, World War II. Again, some of you know why, but my entire life, including as early as I can remember, reading about John F. Kennedy and PT 109, reading about Dwight D. Eisenhower, reading about George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Madison, Madisonian democracy, my entire life, since I was a kid, as far back as I can remember. So pay attention, my viewer, my listener, my Supermax Nation member, pay attention this weekend. And as always, think as you go into this weekend. Be prepared for what's coming. I've said that too, right? The only way to defeat a trap is to know of its existence. The only way to defeat bullshit is to know it's coming at you. We know what Donald Trump is, but it's quite literally on us to decipher, sift out, parse out, and know the garbage that's coming at you from him to get to the kernel of truth. Last point, we'll finish up real quick here, because I have it in the title. It was interesting to me. And for the record, I wouldn't be talking about things if they weren't in your grill, in your face, in the news. If they weren't there, then they're not talked about, right? But these people have a way of inserting themselves back to be talked about. They like it. They do like it. Now, the deflection, and I'll argue this probably till the day I die, the deflection, because I don't know to what degree, I don't think anybody can know to what degree the deflection exists with the Trumpstein war and why the war was started. But I do believe that does matter. And I do believe that had something to do with it. That is in play. That is in play. Because we also know that In the past, world leaders have done that. Start a fight, create a catastrophe, create a crisis to get the minds of the average American, the average person off of a negative topic that you don't want to address or talk about that's harming you. The Epstein files and Donald Trump's relation with his best friend at that time, Jeffrey Epstein, the child sex trafficker. Sick sack of shit. We do know that. But Melania Trump comes on air nationally and denies openly that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had anything more than just a casual social relationship with her specifically. Didn't talk too much about Donald Trump, but her. She wanted to make sure Melania Trump, is no longer being implicated or being inserted into this conversation. I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was extremely funny that Melania came out, the First Lady of the United States, and had to address these items. And in essence, brings the elephant in the room back into the room. The Epstein files. Because the truth is, this Trump war has diminished some of the coverage, at least nationally with news and other outlets, other circuits. It has diminished the amount of coverage on the Epstein files. Because war, ladies and gentlemen, always gets the most attention. Always. And always will. And for valid reason. Because you're dealing with life and death situations. People can die. And people are dying, by the way. We are losing Americans because of this war started by the traitor Donald Trump. But I found it illustrative that Melania Trump had to come out and make these statements now and bring the Epstein files back into the spotlight. If she had never said anything, we wouldn't be talking about it right now, other than she's in them and she's all over them. More than enough pictures, more than enough references, more than enough communication between her, Ghislaine Maxwell, the whole thing. Okay, that's on her. She made those. I don't even know to what degree. I just know she's in them. She's a part of it. I don't believe that she didn't know anything. I don't. Not around that much. I don't. She's not innocent. What degree of guilty? I do not know. But I definitely don't believe she's innocent. I don't. And if you do, then God bless you. God bless you. But again, to the thinking Mexican watching my show, to the thinking American watching my show, pay attention to that. It was odd, but usually oddities have a reason and a rationale behind them. And it wasn't because, maybe for her anyway, she felt the need to clear up the record, right? There's more. And I have been saying that for a while. We're going to wrap here, but I've been saying this for a while. There is more. There is more to come with Epstein and Donald Trump. There is more. I'm convinced of it. We've already seen it begin to dribble out in different ways. I honestly believe 100% that if you had all of the women that were around, abused, trafficked with Jeffrey Epstein and what he did to them, you brought them all out, or all of them commented, and all of them gave you all of their account. There's no question in my mind that Trump will be responsible for more than we already know. And there's quite a bit. I'll finish here. I have left off from commenting about a particular set of the accusations and allegations against Trump in particular with regard to the Epstein files, because I don't want to bring it to air unless I'm comfortable and confident in doing so as stated fact or objective fact that is verifiable and we can confirm. But I'm kind of there with a couple of these allegations and a couple of the women in particular. And I think the time will come pretty soon that I'm going to bring those up, because some of those allegations and those accusations are as filthy as you can get when it comes to underage young girls. So again, I've held off, but that time's coming. That time's coming. So a little quicker. I'm going to thank myself for, and hopefully you thank me. I'm thanking you for finishing up, wrapping them. And I'm going to try to keep these under an hour, 45 to 50 in the range. That's what I want to be in that sweet spot. And then we're getting closer to being able to, what I really, really want to do, and I think I've kind of made up my mind on this, I want to get to a question and answer format, or at least some form of interaction with audience where you get to ask me questions on the topics that we're discussing. And then I give you an answer, at least from my perspective, or what I can if I'm knowledgeable. If I'm not knowledgeable, I'll just tell you so. I don't like talking about things that I don't know or that I'm not knowledgeable on or can't speak to. I'll refer you to somebody else or something else. But I definitely want to get to that because there's interaction, there's communication, there's engagement, and it's organic and true, and it's not just fabricated and like, oh, look, cool, I want to get some more likes. I do not do that. I'm slow, I'm methodical, I'm patient and purposeful. And that's how we continue to build Supermex Nation. For those of you that don't know, Supermex or Mexicans in America, we're not a flash in the pan type of people. We're not an overnight snap your fingers, oh, cool, look, I'm viral. I really do believe we're a disciplined, patient, hardworking people. And that our route to success is predicated on us understanding that and actualizing that method, that process. I do believe that's why I was successful in the military in my way for the things that I did, my awards, and I'll just leave it there. My successes in the Army. I think it was because of the way I am, the way I was raised, the way I grew up. Hardworking, disciplined. I didn't cry, bitch, moan, complain. I executed. I did the job. I knew my job extremely well. I studied. I worked hard. That's Mexican America to me. That's Mexicans anywhere to me. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Supermex. Not an individual, but a concept. That's what I believe in. Okay, thinking Mexicans, thinking Americans, pay attention this weekend. Pay attention as it goes through. Sift out the bullshit. Be aware of it. Know of the trap before its existence plays out. And you'll never be fooled, and you'll know. That's how you build a better mind. That's how you deal with the time that we're living in now. Nothing but love for you. You have a good weekend, and we'll see you back coming Tuesday.